Hello and welcome to the Wire's discussion today on the state of affairs in Gujarat State Petroleum Corporation. The functioning of GSPC, as it's called, which primarily engages in oil and gas exploitation, has over the last few years been a very intense subject of political debate. With opposition parties helped by a couple of CAG reports alleging it to be as much as a 20,000 crore scam. And today our guest with us is Subir Ghosh. Subir, for people who are unaware, is an independent journalist and researcher who over the last few years has closely been tackling issues related with environmentalism, corruption, crony capitalism, and so on and so forth. So thanks for joining us here today, Subir.
Thank you, Anuj, for having me.
Yeah, so this is Subir's book, which is a topic of what we're going to be discussing today. But for our viewers who have not heard of GSPC, the financial mismanagement of it, and how it relates to the broader Gujarat, debt-fueled model. Could you, in a nutshell, describe for us, the state of affairs and where things went wrong over the last? Now it's been, I guess, 14 years almost. Yeah.
The story of the GSPC, as it were, in terms of the scandal or the fiasco, the disaster that you talk about, probably dates from 2005. But GSPC as such predates Narendra Modi, predates everything else, in the sense that it was established in 1979. So it was quite an old company. It was almost 25 years old when Narendra Modi, when he was Chief Minister of Gujarat, decided to take on GSPC as a homegrown brand to serve as the kind of a showcase of what was later to be the Gujarat model. So this they started working on it in about 2003. Now, the very day the Akshardham attacks happened, actually around about that time the Gujarat officials, obviously would have included Modi, were working on kind of rejuggling or kind of doing a lot of creative accounting to increase the net worth of a consortium which was going to bid for oil and natural gas blocks in the KG basin. So that's when it starts in 2003. Oil and gas exploration is a very slow activity. It takes years for people to come up with a discovery, and only then you maybe start drilling, and that's a later stage. So in 2005, in June that year, the Chief Minister of Gujarat had a very big event in his state, and he made a very big statement saying that we have made a great discovery of natural gas, and it's worth so many billions of dollars. What we are going to do is we are going to take on the world. It's going to meet the energy security of Gujarat. It's going to meet the energy security of the country. And so it was a very, very big statement, and everyone fell for it.
So I think at the time, his finding, he said something 20 trillion cubic feet, and for people who are unaware, this was the largest finding announcement, at least at that time, more than Bombay High, more than what Reliance had done.
More than what Reliance had done. Yeah. So, there was something very interesting when I realized and I pursued. As a journalist, you need to do that. While I was working on it, that there was a lot of mumbo jumbo going on in terms of technical parlance, which not everyone understood, or not everyone can understand. Now, this is something that I kept on repeated kind of was ad nauseum to everyone who I have been speaking to. Is this all the debates that were happening later on, say after the two CAG reports? No, this much recoverable gas is there, and no, this much reserve is there, and this much recoverable gas is there. Actually, these mean nothing. No, what happens is that there is something called a reserve, where this is gas trapped within rocks, under the seabed. So this is where natural gas occurs. Now this is a reserve. Now what do? You extract that. So you recover it.
Correct.
Now everything can be recovered or cannot be recovered depending on lots of geological complexities. Correct. And importantly technology.
Correct.
So you have something called proved reserve.
Sure.
And you have something called probable reserve.
Correct.
And there is possible reserve. So now if I were to ask you, will you be able to make it?
No, so I mean, you go
so that is
very technical.
It is not very technical. It can be explained to you in just 2 minutes.
Correct.
Very simple. What's a proved reserve? Because the chances of recovering gas from the reserve is 90%.
Sure.
In terms of probable, it's 50%. In terms of possible, it's 10%. That's the only difference.
Yeah.
So every reserve, from every reserve, there is a recoverable.
Yeah.
So whenever all these people from who were different advocates of the Modinomics or the Modi government, they kept on saying, no, we can extract so much. It really doesn't mean anything till you actually do it.
Correct. So over the last, almost 15 years, correct me if I'm wrong, since the first announcement was made.
That was 2005.
Correct. There have been, the Gujarat state government has spent nearly 20,000 crores in investment, in exploration, in E&P, and so on and so forth to try to get at this massive
you
fund.
need to rephrase that. They have taken loans.
Right.
If they have spent it, it's all very well and good.
That's true.
But they have taken loans, which actually makes it worse, and which actually made it a problem for the state government.
Yes.
And they needed somebody to bail them out.
Yeah.
No, they were never able to do that. See, when Modi first announced the discovery in 2005, he said, we are going to go public.
Correct.
Now the IPO never happened.
Correct.
The IPO never happened. This has been traced.
No, you document very carefully how through anonymously quoted sources, various business newspapers over from 2005 to 2010 say, oh, the IPO is just
it never happened. It never happened because nobody wanted to actually invest. Now, so they were all and. In 2000, I don't remember which of the ones, 2012 or the 2016 SAGE report that mentioned that they were looking for a strategic partner.
Yes.
Now, at that time when the reports came out, you and I wouldn't have an idea what kind of strategic partner they were looking for. Yes. They were actually looking for a bailout.
Correct.
So, in 2014, after the Chief Minister became the Prime Minister, and then they set the ball rolling. It was kind of very slow. I mean, they kind of. In my opinion, they should have gone much faster, but they didn't.
Right.
They went very slow, but then kind of.
That's true. So I mean, so they have borrowed, to the tune of nearly 20,000 crores, and as of 2016, they don't really have much to show for it. Correct. So I mean, currently, from August 2014 to June 2016, 8 billion cubic feet of gas has been extracted so far. So this is, of course, a far cry less of what they claimed would have been done by that time. And
yes, you need to factor in a lot of things. There's something called just extraction, and there's also the question of commercial extraction. So when you extract gas and you are able to make it a commercially viable proposition. This has been charted out in the sense that I wouldn't want to go into the technicalities in terms of what's a field development plan and at what stage you do it and what are the things that you factor in and all. They never were able to show or extract gas say commercially viable, only for the simple reason that they made wrong choices from the very beginning in terms of the estimation itself. Now, what was very extremely funny was that the technical expert who was there, Jean-Paul Roy of a company called Geo Global Resources. Now, this person was the technical expert. Now, there's a different scam about him. Leave that aside.
Yeah.
Leave that aside. Now, the thing is that this is the man who was the technical who was taken in.
Yeah.
Now, the Prime Minister made one kind of announcement on the 25th of June. This person made issued a slightly contradictory press release just a day later, saying that no, there are certain things that still need to be ascertained. The thing is that everything, when we say that everything has gone wrong from the very beginning, what does it mean?
Yeah.
It means that your assessment was probably not right.
Correct.
Probably not done by the right people.
Yeah.
Probably not factored in a lot of other costs like geological complexities that we keep on talking about.
Correct.
Would you like me to explain?
Yeah. So I mean, so the Gujarat state government's primary defense has been that okay, this our block in the KG basin, which they call Deen Dayal West, is high pressure, high temperature. It's low permeability. We had to carry out hydrofracking. And so, how strong are these?
No, that actually has been dealt with in the book. It's a technicality.
Yeah.
HPHT, which was actually, it's not a very new term. Or rather, it's not a new practice in terms of how to deal with these kind of wells. This had been there. There had been a huge oil disaster. I don't remember which year it was, off the coast of Scotland and Ireland. I don't remember that. So since then there have been lots of international practices. There is certain things called best practice that you basically follow. Now, if you, as GSPC, if you're going into this kind of a business of which is ONG, now oil and gas exploration, you are supposed to be aware about these things. Now you cannot use this as a ruse 10 years later. So to tell people or to novices or laborers and so who are ordinary citizens, this is what happened, that's why you could not find any gas. This is something that anybody, not me, anybody who is actually knowledgeable about oil and gas exploration is not going to back those arguments.
Correct. Yeah.
And then you will find all the wrong people who have been arguing about it.
Correct.
In terms of, like I said, recoverables and this much cubic feet and all that. Doesn't really make sense to ordinary people. Ordinary people need to be told that things were not done properly, which was kind of very well documented in the first CAG report. They warned that no, you cannot be taking this track because it's going to lead to financial disaster.
Correct.
Now that was kind of vindicated in the 2016 report.
Correct.
That's what it was 19,700 something crores.
That's true. Yeah. So having gone on sort of this debt-fueled exploratory, drilling and whatnot, by 2015-2016 they've not had much to show for it, and they've taken on a large amount of debt. So in 2016, what happened was that it started searching for a strategic partner, and by August 2017, ONGC stepped in and acquired GSPC's whole stake in that block for nearly $1 billion, along with taking up ownership rights. And you talk about that also, where that acquisition was perhaps not well thought out, and
that is something that still probably needs to be probed, and that still needs to be found out in terms of who actually was the person who actually took the decision. All the while these talks were on, or rather these reports were pouring in that now the ONGC might buy a stake in the GSPC project. Nowhere was it mentioned whose idea it was.
Yeah.
But all the while, the Minister for Petroleum and Natural Gas at that time, Dharmendra Pradhan, kept on saying, no, it is ONG's decision. Yeah. Well, whether it was or it wasn't, that is something we really need to take out.
Correct, right.
Or whose funny idea or whose disastrous idea, which many of us think it was.
Correct, yes. But whether or not it pans out, we still have to see, correct? I mean, perhaps...
yes, I mean, it's still a developing story.
Yeah.
We have seen about 15 years of it so far.
Correct.
As far as the GSPC is concerned, and we have written about the Reliance's KGD6.
Correct.
These are all developing stories, and this what you're talking about is going to develop or maybe escalate also.
That's true. So one thing also that you sort of address throughout your book is sort of the absence of any real media opposition, or I should not say opposition, but investigation of the claims that were made by the Gujarat state government.
For pretty much the reasons that I told you. See, as a journalist, you can only know so much.
Correct.
At the most, you can be a business journalist, so you know how to read a balance sheet, you know how to read a profit and loss account, but that's all. You're not a geological expert.
Correct.
So unless you're a geological expert, or at least you have some kind of basic knowledge about how oil and natural gas exploration happens, till you know that, even you can't really take them on. So that's the reason, probably one of the reasons. Of course, wheeler journalists also are very lazy people. Of course, you know that. But those things aside,
Correct.
There was, I think, a valid reason, because
That's
nobody knew what questions to ask. No, had the right question been asked, the right question to ask at the right time would happen on 25th of June 2005. People should have asked Modi, what kind of recoverable is it? Now, I mentioned technology earlier.
Yeah.
Technology is extremely important here. When we say proven reserves or proved reserves, it means that I can recover 90% of the gas from the reserve using today's technology.
Yes.
It doesn't mean what technology
could come in the
later on, or it could mean the other way also.
Correct, right. And this second half of your thesis here is sort of how GSPC, initially after the Gujarat riots, you've put forth that it became a symbol of the Gujarat model. And 10-15 years later, we know that the Gujarat model is, it's heavily debt fueled, for instance. Often, we've carried multiple stories where, if you look at the majority of infrastructure projects right now in Gujarat, they're delayed, costs have escalated, and this seems very true of many of the state corporations and the way they go about their infrastructure within the state. So how, do you believe that, GSPC is emblematic of the Gujarat model itself?
See, it was actually not a showcase initially. It happened to become a showcase gradually. In 2003, after that fiasco with the CIA here in Delhi, from 2002 to 2003, Modi was always looking for a way out, because he had this riot stigma, and that he just couldn't get rid of it. So there was a lot of criticism within the party. There was a lot of criticism from the then Prime Minister, Atal Bihari Vajpayee. It's all very well documented. He never knew how to get rid of it. Now this became a heaven-sent opportunity for him in 2003. What he did immediately was he turned it and rather twisted it into something that should be seen as an affront for all Gujaratis. In 2003. That is where he tried to give up or not play or use the Hindutva card and on all these fora and all these kind of platforms in 2003. And that was when, just after the CIA fiasco, there were lots of industrialists in Gujarat who kind of rallied around him, because he played the Gujarat card on stage.
Yeah.
And what the Gujarat, I wouldn't say Gujarati investors, so Gujarat investors, they rallied around him, which included our Mr. Gautam Adani.
Correct.
He was a 40-year-old young man at that time.
Correct.
And so he was very energetic, and he rallied.
In fact, just sorry to interrupt you here, but the first CAG report talks about, from 2006 to 2011, GSPC's primary activities was trading in oil and whatnot, and there were some allegations of undue favors to.
It was the biggest activity, but they got all the revenues came from trading.
Yeah.
All the revenues came from trading. There was the small Adani scam. It's like 1 crore or whatever. It's like you and I can probably take a bank loan and give that kind of money, but it was a very small amount.
Yeah.
The thing is, it was still an out of turn favor.
Correct.
Now, coming back to the 2003. So from 2003 onwards, after they tried to kind of institutionalize it. Now, this group that was there, that was called the Resurgent Group of Gujarat, Adani's group. It never had a kind of a formal existence or a website or anything like that. It was just a ragtag group. And then somebody there, they hit on the brilliant idea that we should have an event to showcase Gujarat. That's how the Vibrant Gujarat thing came in. So Vibrant Gujarat, the first one was a disaster because they held it during Navratri. Very bad time to do it in Gujarat. They realized it, and then for the next time onwards, they shifted it to Makar Sankranti. That is only a day's festival, but still you can still manage it.
Yeah.
Even Vibrant Gujarat, for the first few years, it wasn't good. In 2007 or 9 onwards, then it kind of took up, and that is where somewhere I still couldn't find the genesis of this term called the Gujarat Model, but it probably was coined sometime around 6 or 7 probably. Towards the end of his first full term. His first full term began in 2002 December, so ended in 2007 December. So it was towards the end of this term that the Gujarat Model kind of started gaining currency,
Yeah.
and nobody had a clue in terms of what it meant.
Yeah.
I was trying to find what it does it really mean anything.
Yeah.
It was not a term that was used by the Gujarat government at all. Never. They always used like Vibrant Gujarat, Destination Gujarat, and there was no mention of Hindu or Hindutva at all ever. At the most Gujarati, because it's the people who are actually very enterprising, and that's what they showcased, or rather kind of use Gujaratis as a very enterprising people who will help you do good business in their state. So that's how this entire thing kind of gained currency, and then it became a myth, and probably needs to be exploded. And there have been people who have been doing that, but all very piecemeal, all very scattered. Nobody has kind of taken it on in terms of what it does. Does it really mean anything?
Correct.
I realized that it really doesn't mean anything. Whatever it meant was actually there in the 2 CAG reports.
Correct.
Very bad business decisions. GSPC itself is a case of how not to do business, and what else? A lot of hype. This kind of, if you extrapolate it to the Gujarat model or whatever is the criticism about the Gujarat model, you find the same things. There's hype. There are a lot of pompous statements without any substantial statistics or to fall back on. There's a lot of mismanagement and a lack of transparency.
Yeah.
So that is what GSPC was, and that is what people are beginning to realize, that the Gujarat model is also probably something of that. And what I call towards the end, this entire thing has been one big Jumla.
Correct. On that note, I think we'll wrap up today's discussion. So, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That's true. And please do keep a lookout for our future reportage analysis on the same. Thank you.